kind of a bragging point for me. I actually started college when I was 13. I was homeschooled. I did basically 2 grades a year with that and graduated high school at 13 and then started college at one of the colleges there in the area. I wasn't very satisfied or feeling fulfilled with what we were doing and what we were providing to clients. Was thinking to myself, and I'm like, I got to get out of this. What should I do? Like, what do you think I should do here? And they're like, well, why don't you just do it yourself? I'm like, yeah, but there's all these things, right? There's all these things that go into that you have to think about and you have to work through and plan for. And then what if it doesn't work out? You get switched over to this and it doesn't work out and it's terrible. And, I finally got to the point where that fear was outweighed by, what, I'm just not happy with what I'm doing. I have to make some change. So I got the LLC set up and, wasn't quite sure what I was doing, or where it was going to go yet. That was one thing early on that I said to myself is that I will not take a penny from this until everything that we need is paid for and all of our staff is taken care of. Find something that you're good at and do the best that you absolutely can. A lot of people try to spread too thin, and oh, we offer everything, we do everything. You can't do everything. Like if you can, that's amazing, and I love that. But most of us common folk cannot do everything. So find that thing that you're really good at, and just do the absolute best that you can, because that at the end of the day, that is going to be more fulfilling, for you and for who you're working with.
Welcome to Business Owner Conversations. I'm Rebecca. Today we're talking with Josiah. He started as a freelance web designer and has now grown that into a pretty successful nationwide software, app, and website agency with lots of developers, project managers, designers, and employees. Let's see how he did it and what advice he has to share. Remember, while your business industry might be completely different, the principles of business success, leadership, and growth are all the same. Let's see what we can learn from Josiah.
Absolutely. My name is Josiah Partin. I live with my 10-year-old daughter in Ohio, the southeastern corner there. Started my company, The Valley List, back in 2017. We're just over 8 years, I believe, there in business. Started out by just myself from another company working in another agency, and then have slowly transitioned from that into a full team of developers, designers, project managers, things of that nature. So we are in full speed momentum forward at this point. So it's been quite a journey.
Did you go to school for web design?
Actually, no. So I started, and this is kind of a bragging point for me, but I actually started college when I was 13. So I was homeschooled. My mom was a teacher from California. So we moved from California to Ohio when I was a kid. And so she actually homeschooled all three of us kids. I did basically 2 grades a year with that and graduated high school at 13 and then started college at one of the colleges there in the area. So
That's really
I
impressive.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I actually had more of a personal interest in like technology and computers, building computers, tearing them apart, putting things together. And so that's what I went to college for, was more of the computer science side of things. And that was interesting, especially with the age difference there between my classmates. But there was a mix of more of the networking side of things, computer hardware. Some of the certifications that I took were more action. We did have some programming classes mixed in there, but it was on the smaller side of things. And then we had, I believe it was Dreamweaver. I want to say it was Dreamweaver and Eclipse, which is an older style there, just straight HTML building websites. So, but that was just like one class. So it was kind of a strange transition from all IT, to the web side of things.
Well, I know it's off topic, but I gotta ask, what was it like being in college as a 13-year-old? That's like young
I
Sheldon. That's
I
like the
mean,
cheapest
it
thing.
was yeah, it was kinda awesome, you know? For me, it was a lot of fun, so I got to get out and meet a lot of people. One of my main project manager right now is actually one of the guys that I went to college with. He and I hit it off back then, and, like, I was helping everybody with their homework and, all of that stuff after class was done, and Chris and I, really, worked a lot together on our projects and everything. But years later, he's been with me for, I think, 5 years now. So, yeah, it was a bit strange at first, but that's, even from that point with the classes, I started doing some, adult education projects as well, so actually, like, paid gigs. So for one of my internships, I was in the school district and, did some adult education for the teachers and the faculty there, so that they, like, knew how to work Microsoft Office and email and all of those things. And then, later, with that college that I went to, they were offering some courses for the local companies to bring in their employees and do some of kind of the same situation there of, like, let's take some of our older generation and train them to be better with Microsoft Office and be able to use the computers and things better. So that was interesting.
So how old were you when you graduated college?
I was 17.
That's incredible. It's probably hard to find a job after that though, because most places for a full-time job, don't you have to be 18?
It was a little tricky. So it was kind of funny because when I graduated, I was interning at the city of Marietta there in Ohio. And, we made a lot of connections there, got to meet a lot of people, and then through some of the connections, there was a local company that had a tech shop and everything, and I interviewed with them and got the job, and we were talking, and they're like, "Okay, we'll get all the paperwork filled out," and they're like, "Wait a minute, you're not 18. We got to get all this extra paperwork done and do all of those things." That was a little bit tricky at first, I was able to jump kind of right into the fire, basically there from college, which was interesting. So,
So you started off working for another company that did websites.
yep, the majority of it, of what the services and things that we did were on the tech side. So,
So at what point did you decide to branch out on your own and do your own thing?
so that was back in 2017. So I was with them for several years. And worked my way up through the company. We made a lot of progress there, and just I wasn't very satisfied or fulfilling, feeling fulfilled with what we were doing and what we were providing to clients. Was thinking to myself, and I'm like, I got to get out of this. What should I do? And in talking to some of my contacts that I have with like other marketing agencies and things like that, what do you think I should do here? And they're like, well, why don't you just do it yourself? Yeah, but there's all these things, right? There's all these things that go into that you have to think about, and you have to work through and plan for. And then what if it doesn't work out? You get switched over to this and it doesn't work out and it's terrible. And, I finally got to the point where that fear was outweighed by, you know what, I'm just not happy with what I'm doing. I have to make some change. So I got the LLC set up and, wasn't quite sure what I was doing, or where it was going to go yet, but got that set up, started freelancing a bit, started networking with some of those other agencies, and acting as kind of like their white label, hey, you do marketing stuff. I do websites, that's that sort of thing. And that worked out really well to get a start into the field.
So did you keep your job at first and start trying to get clients on your own, or was it like clean break, I'm quitting, and then day one you have no paycheck and you have to figure out how to get a client?
It was a very very short mix. At first, I did start like doing some freelance on the side. So, I go to my day job and then go home and work on that for 3 or 4 hours in the evening just to kind of see what was out there and what was available. And in doing that, that helped me with that fear of what am I going to do? Right. So I was able to get some jobs fairly easily. Some of them weren't super great. Right. So, those first ones, some of them may be terrible, don't make much money on it, but you get the experience, working with those people. You get the reviews from those people, and I was able to quickly start expanding those, right? Maybe I would say maybe about a month or so, transition period. I'm like in between, still working this, still working this. I'm like, you know what? Why? This is working great. Let's do it. So it was a pretty quick transition.
So I guess at that point you had what, a 3-year-old daughter?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was an interesting mix in the situation too, because I'm like, oh, what are we gonna do here? So
What were you making prior to branching out by yourself? Do you remember? I mean, I know it was a long time ago, and
so
inflation has happened since
I think,
then.
yeah, no, I think it was about around about 4,000 at that point.
So then is that kind of what you need? You were like, if I can at least make that or at least make a little bit less than that month one, I'll be okay.
Yep. Yep, that's kind of where I was at because I did have costs that, like I'm paying for my own gas while I'm traveling to places, and I'm traveling a lot, and spending nights and weekends working on stuff, and I'm not getting paid for that. So I was like, you know what? If I can just get anywhere close to this, I'm good because then I'm reducing my costs. I'm not traveling. I'm not putting wear and tear on my car. That's an improvement. So definitely.
How many months did it take you to get to where you needed to be?
Month 1. So,
Really?
yeah. Yep. Yep.
That's
So
awesome.
it was more than a surprise to me because that was kind of where I was at with my expectations was, well, if I can just get close to this. Great, let's do it. But then by about month 3 that I had about tripled what I was making,
Oh, wow.
monthly. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no brainer. This worked out, So month 1, I was like, I hit even, I was good to go, making a little more. And it's from my home, so that's awesome. I'm able to get everything done. And then month 2, a little bit more traction, starting to get some of those clients set up, and some of them are returning while I'm getting new ones. So that worked out really well. And then by 3, I'm like, dude, this is awesome. This is great.
So is the strategy with web design, is it like, for example, charge $4,000 for one website and try to knock out someone's website in a month? And then next month you're looking for someone new, or is it a bunch of smaller projects that you're hoping will add up to that?
So to start out with, it was more of like the break fix items, or like ticket based items. I had a couple of smaller projects, that came in, but at that point, I was a little bit newer to the web industry, and I didn't have any experience, that I could back that up and say, here's a $4,000 website. So I think that's a big thing when people get into this is, oh well, I can build a Wix website. Great, okay, but do you have the experience to say where things should go and how they should go together, or is Wix the best option? Because a lot of the times it's not. So that was kind of the thought process that I had was, I know that I'm newer to this. I know that I'm learning a lot, while I'm going through here. So I'm not going to overcharge people and make sure that everybody's happy with what we're doing. So yeah, it was a lot of those smaller pieces that fit together for the first year or so, really.
So how did you go about marketing yourself? Like, how did people know that you were able to fix stuff for them, and how did you find those people that were needing that?
So it's kind of a mixture. As much of a bad rap that Upwork gets, that's where I got started. I've talked to a lot of people like, hey, I want to break into this field or this field, and try and get started doing my own thing. Jump on Upwork. There's all kinds of jobs on there. No, every job's not going to be a great fit. No, you're not going to make a lot of money on some of them, but it's a great starting point if you get something going on, right? You get some clients, you get some experience. So mixture of that, as well as, like I said, working with some of the marketing agencies. So they were really helpful. There's a lot of the clients that I started out with back then that I networked with. We're still working with to this day. So that's another bragging point of, like, we like to keep these people around. So we build those long-term relationships with people, and they love that. Like, so one of the main one that helped me get going back then He's awesome. He's a great guy. He and his wife, both run the company. They do all kinds of marketing services and such. His wife's got broken into real estate now. They got all kinds of things going on. And I think we've got 2 or 3 projects going on with them right now. So that's been, I think, the best situation. And we've done a lot of referral work over the years from that networking and setting up those relationships with people. That means a lot.
How long was it before you brought on your first employee?
So that I would say probably about year 3. I started thinking about that. So year 1 was mostly learning, getting a lot of experience, doing a lot of different industries and project types, all kinds of things, and kind of narrowing in what I want to work on. Year 2 was a lot of refining with that, building long term relationships with other agencies, and then I'm like, you know what? Where do I want to go with this, right? So, I'm making good money, and it's me, and I'm sitting in my house, and I would rather be meeting people and interacting with people and, doing all kinds of things. I started out reaching out to some of my college resources. So I've again built very good relationships with a lot of my teachers and some of the folks there at the college. So I reached out to some of those as resources to check out if there's any interns or things of that nature going on. So I went through and did a couple of those, and then I actually posted out a job at one point to get a couple of developers local as well.
So did you just start with one hire, or did you go straight out the gate and need a bunch of people?
So I think I was at 2 was what I was looking for. So one was more on the tech side, because
Okay.
we were doing a bit of that. And I was recognizing that the more that I'm out working on a computer, the less I'm doing in the office. So one was on that side, and then the other one I was looking for was on the web side. So to kind of help on both sides, and then that allows me to work a little bit more on the company and bringing new people in. So.
So how do you figure out when you need a new position, how do you figure out what to pay that person? Because I guess prior to that, you kind of just get to keep everything that you bring in
Right, right.
until
Yeah, that
until
is
you until you hit a limit of I can't bring any more because I'm busy. I don't
right,
have any more
right.
time.
Until they invent cloning, which I'm really, really hoping for at some point, that's kind of where we have to do. We have to go with that. So a lot of times I'll look up, some of the averages for like salaries and such, along that nature, and then we'll discussion with the person about their qualifications and how valuable they're going to be towards that position, to kind of match up on pricing. So, try to be very fair with that and stick close to the market, averages and stuff there to make sure people aren't underpaid.
Did it feel like a hit to you at first for knowing that their pay was coming straight out of your pocket?
I mean, it did. It was kind of a tearing point for me because I was like, oh yeah, I'm making all this money. That's awesome. And then it's like, oh, I'm not making so much money now, but I have a lot more free time, so I can spend more time with the kids, and family and hanging out. So, that means a lot, and taking that time while you can is important. So it's a good trade-off. It's a good trade-off for that.
Well, I guess, and there's the potential of what more you can bring in with 3 people versus just 1.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that did expand what type and size of projects that we could take on, as well as just our day-to-day operations, being having the time to be more efficient and work on our processes and things of that nature.
Did you have a learning curve at all at the beginning of, like, how much to pay yourself versus how much to leave in the business versus, like, seeing what taxes were gonna be the first year and then having to accommodate for that for all the future years, or did you
Absolutely.
did you develop some
Yeah.
sort of system?
Um, that's one thing that I still struggle with to this day. So one of the biggest issues that I had with the previous company I worked with was that very frequently we would get our paychecks and then it would be, oh, well, don't cash it until next week because there's not enough money in the account, or we'd try to do it and then it would bounce and things of that nature. So that was one thing early on that I said to myself is that I will not take a penny from this until everything that we need is paid for and all of our staff is taken care of. So that with cash flow, and if we invest into software projects or anything like that at this point, that's still a priority. And that will fluctuate, based on what we've got going on to make sure everybody's taken care of first. So that's definitely still a little bit of a struggle that we're figuring out.
Do you prefer to pay people hourly or salary, or does it depend on the person?
So we do a little bit of a mix. My long-term guys, I've got on a salary at this point. A couple of the newer ones or on demand. One of my designers is still an hourly as well. So it'll be based on whatever we've got going on.
Have you branched out into employee benefits and insurances and that kind of stuff?
Not yet, not yet. I've actually got that on my radar for the next 6 months is a big focus because I'd like to start adding some of those.
Has it been hard to find employees, like quality employees without those things yet?
Not really. No, no. That's no one's really ever brought that up. Typically, we're able to pay well enough to that doesn't even come up. So definitely, as we're getting a little bit larger now and expanding, I've recognized that as a hey, you know what? That'd be a really nice perk, for people, especially a couple of these guys that have been with me for 5 or 6 years. I'd really like to add that on to what we're doing. So that's definitely on the radar for the near future.
So, how does the cash flow work in web design? Like, do your clients pay up front or do they pay when it's finished? So, are you having to then front the employee payroll until your project is completed?
We actually do for most projects we do a 50% deposit to get started. That way, that shows us that you're serious about it, that you want to do it. You're in this. So then that helps with some of the cost, and then we will collect the remainder at the end. If we have some larger software projects, we do offer to break that up into more of a monthly situation, which helps with the payroll and stuff there as well. A little bit of a mix, but I'd say the majority, probably 80%, is all going to be the 50%. Before and after. And then we also have services for support and maintenance that are billed every 2 weeks. Those go out with payroll, and that helps even things out as well.
How long until you realized you needed to scale bigger?
Well, it was kind of hit or miss there for a while because the staff has always, and I'm sure will always be, the biggest challenge is finding those right people to be there. So I actually went through probably 5 or 6 people that were not good fits for various reasons, and before I started finding my people. That Chris started with me about 5 years ago. I think he just hit his anniversary here a week or so ago, and I've had to slow myself down because I'm like, yeah, I want 2 or 3 people. Let's do this, and then that will allow me to do this, and this. That's great, but if they're not doing what they're supposed to be, or they're doing this or doing that, then we're exactly where we were before. So as people have become available, Chris, we did a few tech jobs together and started reconnecting there after several years being apart from college, and just happened to be the right timing. Said, hey, let's go. I need a project manager that I can rely on, that we can get this stuff done. And he came on and immediately was like taking stuff off my back and off my shoulders so that I don't have to worry about it, and I can trust him to do that. So that helped a lot towards the first step of getting those right staff in place. So with the developers, there's a lot of time back and forth with those guys. So Chris has helped a lot with that. And from there, we slowly added one person here. And now we're up to 3 designers, 6 developers, two more project managers. So that not only the training aspect from that, but the everyday operations. Like there is a lot of time that goes into that, and there's a lot of nights and weekends that I didn't get any sleep, or didn't get to do anything else to make sure that we get those right people in place. So that is a huge thing, and it's very difficult to find those right people to put in there.
What was the learning process like of like creating your hierarchy and okay, you report to this person, okay, this person's going to be under you. Did you have a vision from the start or did you just hire people and then have to sort it out after?
Yeah, it was kind of a learning experience. So, because that's I at the previous company there, towards the end of it, I started getting into more of the management aspect of things and dealing with interviews and things of that nature. So I had just a little bit of experience doing that, and that helped on this side of things to start putting that together. But it's definitely been a learning curve. I would say, we've we're very easygoing, as far as our culture and our team dynamic, to make sure that everybody's comfortable in what they're doing, as well as everybody's trained well, and they know what they're doing, they're able to do it efficiently. So as far as setting like the project managers up higher, you're interacting with clients, you're interacting with developers, you're interacting with designers. And then for me, I think the biggest challenge is more so making sure that I'm involved enough with everyone and the process and everything going on, so that I can help if there's any escalations or anything going on. I can jump in and help, but at the same time, still be taking care of like all the business stuff and all the contracts. That's been a huge learning curve for me because I really did not know much about the business side of things. Like I'm an IT guy. I work on computers. I build websites. I code things. I don't know the business. So that would have been a huge help to me when we first started out, or when I first started out, to either have a mentor or something there to give me a boost. But it's been a learning curve, and it's been all right. It takes more time maybe than it should sometimes. So
Do you have an office now or does everyone work from home?
yeah, so most of us have an office where we live, but as far as like physical locations, we don't have a office for customers to come into. The only one we have, we just recently opened a location in San Antonio, and I'm in the transition period to get moved down there. So we will have that open, but at the moment we've kept a pretty remote dynamic with everyone.
It probably definitely helps with overhead expenses.
It does. It does. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit extra because we do have those separate spaces, but in my opinion, that is super necessary because it's very hard to work in your living room when there's life happening around you. So
Yes.
that's one thing I've tried to make a good point of is like we need to have that separate space. Even if you're like, yeah, it's cool. Like, no, it's not. You need either an office room or, like Chris has one of those like tiny home, type
Oh
situations
wow.
in his backyard, and that's his office. And I've got a big office space in my building. I've got an apartment building with a first floor, and I've turned that into my office space. So that separation really makes a huge difference in the efficiency and focus that we can put into things.
If you were to look back from when you started, what are some of the things that you feel like you did right and that you're proud of? And then on the flip side, what are things that I guess we'll do that first, but then we'll go into like things that you wish you had done better or learned sooner.
Okay. Um, hmm. So I would say what I've focused on the most is that we always look at what the client needs. So this goes back to, another reason that I split off was the clients weren't getting what they need. So they were having money collected from them, and they were saying, "I need these things done and these things fixed," and it wasn't happening. So that's a big focus for us, the entire time of we even if we're not making as much as we could, or selling all the high priced items or whatever, um we're making sure that they have exactly what they need. So even if they don't know that, and we'll have some come and say, well, we need this huge site that does this and this, and we've got quotes for 10,000 or 20,000 to get this done. What can you guys do for it? When we'll take a look at that and review and say, well, you don't actually need all of this. You need this, this, and this for this. We're always looking at what's best for the client, because at the end of the day, when they succeed, we succeed. I want them to be happy with it. I want them to be giving us referrals, which, like I said, for the entire time, referrals have been huge, and that's awesome. I would say we've only had to fire a couple clients, so most of the ones that we've worked with over the years, we still have. So that is a huge thing for us. And I've been blessed with the people that I've gotten in now, for our team, because they all believe in the same thing. We want to do right by the client. That's the end of the day. We're the same as you. We don't do the same thing, but we're the same as you. So we want to make sure that you've got everything that you need to succeed. Anything that we could help with to make that happen, that's where we're at.
So I would say maybe treating people right, like treating your clients right and not just trying to check off that you made a sale, like actually trying to address.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and that goes into, from websites into custom portals or custom apps. Anything that we need to do there, that's a huge focus. We want to make sure that you've got the right stuff, because that's I understand the same thing. When, over the years I've tried to use all kinds of different platforms or systems that are supposed to make my life easier for managing the business or doing this or doing that, and a lot of them don't work, so I'm spending all this money out. There was one point we were spending thousands in licenses every month for, project management platforms and all these things, and they maybe did a little piece of it that's really good, or this works well, and then we have to use 10 of them. I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is ridiculous. So I kind of take that mentality in with the clients as well, as like, let's find the best solution for that. And that's at the end of the day, even if that's not us, we've got a lot of agency partners, that we work with, and we help them with projects, and they'll do the same thing with us. So if they are really good at something that we don't do, and the client needs that, I'm happy to make that referral back to them as well. Like, I'm okay with admitting, hey, we don't do this, or we're not the best at this. Let's find you that person.
I definitely feel you on that. I feel like we have thousands a month in subscriptions that halfway work and do little
Yes,
pieces.
yes, it's huge. I hate that industry, and I get it. I get it at the same time, because it's great and get everybody over to these subscriptions, but a lot of them are just flash. Like, I need stuff that is actually going to help me make my life easier, not more difficult. Please.
Yes. Yes. So what are some things that you wish you would have learned sooner or mistakes that you made?
So I would say the biggest thing over the years that I've run into is, we like with contracts and, from the business side of things, um I I probably should have spent more time, learning about that stuff, whether it's an online course or maybe go back to college for a year or two, to get some of that experience. That probably would have made my life a lot easier. So, getting some of those things into place sooner would have been more helpful, especially with like the contracts. We did have a couple of clients over the years they get to the end of it and they're like, yeah, everything's great, everything's great. We launch it and they're like, no, this sucks. We don't want this. We're not going to pay you. And at some of the points, I didn't have the right, clauses in the contract, of, once this is finished, you approve this, you launch it, you pay us. That's it, at the end of the day. So we've definitely made a lot of changes to our contracts and our policies over the years to help with that. And I try to be very careful with who we work with, So when it comes to clients, if my gut tells me that this is going to be a problem, or or these guys are being rude and disrespectful, that's not somebody I want to work with, and that's not somebody that I want my team to work with. So, so like I mentioned, like we have had to fire a couple of clients because that's not something I'm going to tolerate. So, and that's another thing that I had to add into the contracts and everything. Is we have the right to say, hey, you know what, this is not working. Please go find someone else. Like we're not, we'll help you find someone else. Not a big deal, but I don't want to tolerate that with our guys, because that makes our life worse. I don't want that. So that's definitely been a challenge for sure over the years.
Have you ever ended up in a legal battle, like ever in court over non-payment?
We
Or do you
have,
just
yeah.
kind of eat it and learn the lesson and move on?
We have a couple of times, and most, depending on the balance that's due, a lot of the time that's not going to be worth it because you have to pay the lawyer, and yet, even if you get the judgment, sometimes they still don't. And that was fairly early on, so that was another thing that led to, like, we really have to lock this stuff down, and also be really careful who we're taking on, because if it's somebody that seems risky and is disrespectful and not on time with things, they're probably going to be that way the entire time. So yeah, that's at this point we try to avoid it as much as possible up front so that we don't run into that issue.
So what does your normal day look like? Like a day in the life of Josiah? Like how do you manage work-life balance, managing your whole team, running the company, doing all the just business operations?
Well, so that varies day by day. Um, it's sometimes it's very challenging to keep good boundaries and separations from things. My daughter is 10 going on 11 now. We switched to homeschool I think 2 years ago. So this will be year 3 now. It's a mixture of getting my day started, getting her day started, making sure that she's working on her assignments, for the day, checking in with the team in the morning, making sure everybody's on track there. Are there any roadblocks? Is there anything going on that I need to know about? Checking through support tickets, making sure there's no roadblocks there, making sure the projects are on point. A lot of my day, I am trying to work more on the business side, especially here recently. We've been um, creating some software products to fix or help with some very niche problems in different industries. So we've been spending a lot of time developing those, packaging them up, getting them ready for resale, getting some additional brands set up so that we've got some separation between different service types and things of that nature. So there's been a lot of time into that, even into the evenings and such at times. But I do try to, not only for me but for my team as well. I'll get on them a little bit if I get a message from them at 8 o'clock at night. I'm gonna let them know that you should not be there. Go do something. Go watch a movie with your husband or your wife, or go do something else. I've been not only working on our company a lot, and some of our products and such that we're working on, but I've also been, like I said, with like the company perks and things, been trying to focus on us a little bit more here recently of what can we do to make our lives a little bit better. Like, so that's we've been focused on work a lot, and that is great. And I love that the team is awesome. They've been kicking butt, but we need to make sure that we have those boundaries in place, and that sometimes is very hard to do, especially working from home, because there isn't that, like, I'm not driving to work and coming home, and there's that clear separation. It's like, well, I'm over there, it's kind of separate, but it's not, so that's been a big focus for me here lately, is try to check in with the team and make sure everybody's okay, and got things going on, and getting out of work on time. If you need help at the end of the day, let me jump in. We were just doing that yesterday, Chris and I. We had a new PC install at one of our client locations. Jumped in remote, helping him finish that up real quick. Get the heck out of here, get home. So So that, yeah, like I said, it's a flex. We take every day as it comes, and some days are a little less hectic than others, but really, like I said, really blessed with the team because they really take the punches and keep on rolling. Like it does not matter what comes up through the day. What we typically are on top of it, and we can knock it out for the clients. So.
So since you started, have you just grown progressively the whole time, or have you ever had down years where you're like, I'm not getting clients and I have all these people on payroll, what do I do?
I would say that it's been fairly steady growth. As far as the client side, I would say the biggest challenge, on our side of things would have been with the staff expansion and and trying to figure that out at first. That was quite a bit of a challenge to have to hire somebody and they're not the right fit and I have to hire somebody else and deal with all the cash flow of that because the work's not getting done. I still have to do the work. Now I have to pay you and I have to hire another person, all of that. I would say the first few 3 to 4 years, were a little bit of growth, but not a lot. Since then, we are typically hitting around 20% every year, which is not bad. I'd like a little bit more, but yeah, I think that was probably the most challenging period was around the staff and such there.
I think people drastically underestimate how expensive and time consuming it is to interview, put out job listings, hire, train, just for that,
Yes.
because you still have to do your work and you have to train them and you're paying them
Yes.
and they haven't produced anything yet
Yes.
and then they don't work out and you have to start all over.
That is exhausting. That was so bad. I think that's probably near the top of the list or at the top of the list for my least favorite things to do or periods of time right there.
Yes. It's
So,
hard. It's very hard.
yes, yes it is.
All right. So, what about your best? If you've grown about 20% every year, then I'm guessing this year's tracking to be your best year then?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we're on par with that. We're right now we're right about where we were for our total last year.
That's
So,
awesome.
anything beyond that, we're higher, which is great. So, and that's we've another thing that I've struggled with is I've tried to do hire sales guys on. That's been a whole nother challenge on top of the staff thing, with sales guys. But we've operated primarily off of referrals the entire time. So to be able to do that slow grow, find the right people, make sure they're trained, make sure they're in the right place while still growing, at that pace, I think is pretty decent, right?
Yeah.
So, so that's another initiative. We just brought on a sales guy Monday. So that's another thing that we're working on right now is that whole aspect of things. So that's a new initiative for us because like I said, we've been on that slow burn trying to develop all of the products that we've got. We're now at that point where we've got several of them ready to go, where we've got the right people in place to take on more projects. So I'm like, well, let's start pushing now. We're at that point. So that's been an awesome change here recently.
Are you setting up your salespeople to be commission based?
So it's actually more of a I think it's called draw, similar to how the car dealerships do it, where it is paid, but that gets pulled out of your commission. So as you make sales, then you take away from that. So I do have them set up that way. The last guy I did was just a straight pay and that did absolutely nothing and I got zero meetings out of it for 3 months or something like that he was working. I'm like, you know what, this is no, we're done, this is enough. So I was like, well, this time I talked to the guy. I was like, very transparent, here's what I've tried, that didn't work, here's what I'd like to try, are you cool with that? Let's go. So he was excited to do that. And he's been doing really well so far, to getting more familiar with things that we do and all of that. So, and he actually comes from an IT background as well, so we've got some common ground there too.
Oh,
So,
good. Well, I hope he works out. Hope you make lots
definitely,
of sales.
definitely.
So, of the money that you bring in, how do you figure out how much to pay yourself versus to leave into the business or hire more people or to do advertising or marketing?
So Right now, like I said, normally we don't have a lot of budget into marketing or any activities on that side of things. So that's fairly easy. Right now, we've got a social media guy that's helping us get some of that stuff in order. Got a sales guy. We've got some online advertising going, things of that nature. We just recently sponsored the Cleveland Irish Festival in Ohio here. They're fairly decent in size, and we sponsored a couple of the stages there, provided some TVs, handing out pens and Sharpies and business cards and glow sticks and temporary tattoos, crazy stuff. It was awesome. It was a really good thing to get out there and get our name blasted out there. Got to meet some of the bands that were there, and the whole team was able to come up there and spend some time for the weekend. So that was a good, not only team building exercise, but good little bit of advertising there and good experience. So we've been putting a little bit more focus into that lately. So there's been a little bit more budget allocation there. But typically for myself, I don't have a lot of expenses. My vehicles are paid off. My house is paid off. Other than utilities, I don't really have a lot of expenses. So I have some room to breathe there. Um, and typically I'll take based on what we've got going on. So if we've got a lean month and we've got extra, cool, let's pay myself and let's do these things. Or like I said, a lot of what we've been doing recently is working on the software products. Instead of drawing to myself, I've been investing back into that to get those done, because it's trying to think more of that long-term plan. Yeah, getting those done has been a huge feat. It's been kind of costly, but we're finally to that point where they're done and we're getting ready to market them and package them up and go. So, so it's all been worth it. But yeah, it's been pretty flexible there. But like I said, a lot of investment back into things. So
Well, that's exciting. This could be a huge, not that you need a turning point, but once you start selling the software that's packaged, that
yeah.
could be huge.
It is, and that's we've done some of that over the years, but really here in the last year, the custom stuff has blown up. So everybody wants their own app. They want their own system where all their data is, they own it and they have it. They're not on other things. So we've done quite a few recently, and I'm like, why don't we just make some products and we can address some of these issues. So yeah, that's been it is a turning point, because that's we've not had a big focus on that over the length, but we've mostly been strictly into web hosting, maintenance, support, design, development, all of everything that's there, and we've gotten very good at that. But I didn't realize that there was such a market over here, and that's something that I found out in talking to some of our other agencies, is that most of them, they'll have like $150,000 minimum for a software project, and that's not something that a small business has, and that's not what it costs to build some of these things either. So I'm like, okay, where are small businesses at in their price points and what they need? And we've been able to simplify a lot of that and say, here's something that will get everything that you need in a simple version and at this price, which is a fraction of what some of these other companies are charging. So I really have a passion for that, because that's like, I'm a small business too. That's who we are as well. I don't want to have to deal with that either. So that's how I want to treat these, everybody that we interact with is, let's find the best way to do this and make it happen. And that's been really successful. I'm like, let's go, let's do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you were talking to someone who's 20 years old and wanting to own their own business or be an entrepreneur and, one day own a web agency and have 10 employees, like what advice would you give them?
That is a good one. Um, do your research. Take the time to think through as much as you possibly can. At that age, I was not thinking of a lot of the things that I do now. So that's all been a learning curve over the years. But the more that you do up front is going to help you later on. So the things that I've had to go back through and fix or restructure the LLCs or things of that nature. Um, really do some research of like what the best way or the best type of company structure to set up or the best platforms to use for things because a lot of it can be either costly or time consuming to change or to fix, later on. So yeah, that's a huge thing really would have helped me a lot. If I was thinking more of those things rather than, getting the work done, which is natural, it's natural, but that really would have helped a lot.
I know we've ran really long, and I'm sorry, but if
No
you want
worries,
to
no
take a
worries.
minute or two and kind of give a little elevator pitch on your products that you're about to launch, you're welcome to.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not quite finished with all of the marketing pages for them yet, but we've got a new brand that we're setting up called Next Level. Next Level Business. We're shortening it to Next Level, make it a little bit catchier, and then Next Level Product. So we've got a storage management system that handles anything for storage units. So the owners, they're able to add in all of their customers, work through the lead process to customer process, add the units that they want to rent, gather all the information, collect those, set up recurring invoices. Really just dial that management in for storage unit owners.
Oh, wow.
That solved a problem where most of the platforms that are out there are charging anywhere from $500 up, 1,000, 1,500 a month for the platform. And then they also, a lot of them will mark the credit card processing fees. This one of our customers that are using this system, they were paying, I believe, about eight or 900 a month for the platform, and then they were paying a little bit over 6% for their credit card processing. So that was even just the processing fees was eating them alive. So with our system, we were able to get them down to 2.9 percent, which cuts their processing in over half,
Yeah.
which helps a lot. And they're the only ongoing fees that you have are hosting. So that's around $600 a year compared to 800 a month forever. And then if you ever decide you don't want to use that platform, it's gone. So this is something, the benefit of these are you own this. It's not a subscription. You own this is your thing. So we've got our storage solution there. We've also got a sports tournament management system. So anything, and it can apply to any sports industry there. Of that, you can set all of your players. You can set up the tournaments and who's facing who, and set up all the details. Send out email notifications. Anything of that direction. And then we've got a community solution where it's built angled more towards like membership. So it could apply to churches or ministers, anything of that nature, where members are able to join. You can either charge fees or not charge fees. You can add blogs, podcasts, live streams, training courses, anything of that nature. And the admins or say a church, they can get all of their information out immediately, to people. So we've talked to a lot of the churches in our area, and we've interacted with a lot of them, done websites, things of that nature, and they've brought that up a lot of times is the platforms that are available. Again, lots of platform fees, or it doesn't work very well, or it doesn't work very at all. So, so that was a big one that we wanted to try and push out for those guys especially because that's a huge thing for them. Like to get
Hmm.
get them on the map, at this day and age, if you're not local, you're not seen with those guys. So that allows them to expand as far as you want to go, which is great. Um, so we've
So
got those
are
Yep.
these just
Go.
things that you see in your life that you're like, oh, there's a need there? Because I mean, those are completely different things: churches and storage units and ball
Yep.
tournaments. Like, is that just you living life, seeing that there's
Yeah,
a need?
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
That's
exactly. And
awesome.
that's something. All of us come from a very diverse background, and life experiences. So that we like to solve problems, so, and those ones are very good. The one that we don't have done yet, which I'm really excited about, we should be done in November, is a management system for sober living
Mm.
owners. So anyone that owns that business or runs that business will be able to manage anything from the intake process of your guests all the way through payments, through bed assignment to house assignment, tasks for the guests. Yeah, everything that you need to do, all of your meetings, your drug testing, all of that will be in one piece, because that's something that we've talked to a lot of them, and they're using, say, Facebook Messenger for chat, and Google Sheets for this, and paperwork for the intakes, and then they scan those in, and then they do that up here, and everything's all over the place, so this will bring everything into that one portal, even down to live chat. So the guests will be able to chat with the either the house managers or the staff, anything like that, if they've got issues. That's something that we're super super excited about. It's turning out really well. Um, so we're hoping to launch that here, like I said, in November. So that'll be a huge one as well, because that's a huge issue that we've got across the states. I mean, I know a lot of people that have struggled with that, and the process from the inside, even for the people that are going through those program, they don't get the help that they need. They're overloaded. The system is overloaded. They're not able to get that help and things. So we really want to try and help with that industry, and see if that's something that will help them be more efficient. I get it, it's running a business, but at the same time, that's a huge issue that would be
That's helping
awesome if we
people.
can help.
That's
Exactly.
that's
So
important stuff that, you
it
know.
is. It is. So yep.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you guys are going big and getting bigger and
We're certainly trying to. So that's, like I said, we all try to do the best that we can, and help our clients, do the right thing there. So that's worked out very well for us, and we'd like to expand and do more.
well, definitely drop all your links when I post the video and help
Absolutely.
get the word out. And I really appreciate you coming on and chatting for so long.
Great chatting with you. It's fun to get this done.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Any final comments or pieces of wisdom you'd like to share?
I don't think so. I think we've covered everything. I said just I think the only thing that I haven't said is find something that you're good at and do the best that you absolutely can. A lot of people try to spread too thin, and oh, we offer everything. We do everything. You can't do everything. Like if you can, that's amazing, and I love that. But most of us common folk cannot do everything. Find that thing that you're really good at, and just do the absolute best that you can, because that at the end of the day, that is going to be more fulfilling, for you and for who you're working with.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Likewise.
All right.